No nii, aga alustame vaikselt meie päevaga pihta. Tere tulemast kõigile Tallinna linna ja Tallinna Tehnikaülikooli Targa linna mõttetalgutele. Enne kui me alustame sõnavõttudega, on ka kiire päevakava tutvustus. Peale sõnavõtte tuleb meil Inspiratsiooniettekanne, millest räägib Milla Burno Soomest teemal Tuleviku, linn. Seejärel teeme siin samas hoones väikse lõunapausi, misjärel jätkame mõttetalgutega, mis omakorda lõpeb siis iga laudkonna peale kokkuvõttega, mida palume igal moderaatoril esitada. Moderaatorid on selle kohta informatsiooni saanud e-mailile. Ja hiljem, kui kokkuvõtted on esitatud, siis on meil ka selline väike networking, snäkid, kohvid. Ja selliselt meie päev ka lõpebki. Aga ilma siis pikema jututa paluksin sissejuhatuseks tervituskõneks siia ette Akadeemik Jarek Kurnitski.
See on selline maja, mis hästi rohelisse pealinna peaks sobima. Ja kui sellest majast nüüd natukene rääkida, me istume selle maja vanas osas, mis jäi alles, on pika ajalooga ehituse katsehall ja kõik, mis siin on selja taga, on uus osa ja see uus osa on eriline selle poolest, et see on ehitatud puitkonstruktsioonis. 3 korrust ristkiht liimpuitkonstruktsioonidega, kandvad talad, postid, kandvad seinad ja ka välisseinad puitkonstruktsioonis, puitsõrestikus, kusjuures viimistletud puitpaneelidega. Et miks see puitehitus nii oluline on? Kindlasti on üks põhjus on sellepärast, et me tahame vähendada süsiniku jalajälge ja see on järjest tähtsustav teema, aga loomulikult teisest küljest ikkagi sellise metsariigina, nagu Eesti on, oleks patt, kui oma toorainet ei väärtustaks ja seda hoonetes ei kasutaks. See maja on 3500 ruutmeetrit ja selle ehitusmaksumus ei olnud kõige soodsam, see oli 1650 eurot ruutmeetri kohta, ehk siis 5,8 miljonit eurot see lugu maksma läks. Aga arusaadavalt, kuna siin on selline pikk nimekiri igasuguseid laboreid, kõik ehitusega seotud teadus- ja õppelaborid on siin majas, siis selge, et need muudavad ka ehitamise kallimaks. Ja te võite ette kujutada, et Tehnikaülikoolis uued hooned ehitatakse kõik ligi nullenergia hoonetena, nii ka see maja on A-klassi maja, kuigi sellise ümberehitusel tegelikult selliseid nõudeid ei ole. Sisekliimaklass on lausa esimene kategooria, nii et me räägime Tehnikaülikooli parima energiatõhususe ja parima sisekliimaga hoonest praegusel hetkel. Järgmised muidugi saavad lati järgmistele kõrgustele tõsta. Ja siin me tõesti tahtsime näidata puidu kasutamise võimalusi suurte hoonete ehitamisel ja koos selle puidu kasutamisega me läksime selles suhtes ka lõpuni välja, et see puit on igal pool nähtav, nii et selle maja interjöör on tegelikult väga erakordne. Praegu me küll istume siin kõige brutaalsemas ruumis, mis selles majas on, aga vaheaegadel ja lõunaajal teil on võimalik siin ringi vaadata ja kindlasti selle maja atmosfääri ka paremini kogeda. Kui meil neid puitmaju nii vähe on, siis see on tõesti täna midagi erakordset. Ma tahaks väga Tallinna linna tänada kõigest koostööst, mis on ülikooli ja Tallinna linna vahel. Ka ise ja just ehituse inimesed on mitmete projektidega seotud ja vägagi hõivatud, nii et leida kõik need ressursid, et ka olemasolevate projektidega edukalt hakkama saada, on tegelikult paras väljakutse, aga Tallinna linna roll on olnud märgiline juba pikka aega ja ma tõstaks esile näiteks Tallinna õpetajate kodu, Uuslinna tänaval, mis ehituse seisukohalt on väga oluline, esimene ligi nullenergia eluhoone, mis sai ehitatud ja millest terve Eesti mastaabis oli kasu, et kõikidel töövõtjatel jäi nii-öelda suu kinni, et nüüd need karmid nõuded, energiatõhususe nõuded sunniks töövõtjat ja ehitajat minema läbi nõelasilma. Nii see ei ole, ilmekalt sai näidatud, kuidas asju teha tuleb ja see maja tänase päevani esindab ka väga head ehituskvaliteeti. Meil on väga olulised käimasolevad projektid, milles Tallinna linnal kandev roll. Tooksin siin välja meie Tuleviku linna professuuri, mida Tallinna linn koos Ülemistega on rahastanud ja rahastab veel järgnevatel aastatel ja loomulikult on toonud selle professuuri teemadesse ka linna arengu suured küsimused ja need on sellised väljakutsed, millega on oluline tegeleda ja me oleme tõesti väga õnnelikud, et Tehnikaülikoolis ka selline professor täna päeval on olemas. Kindlasti see oleks olnud võimalik ilma linna tugeva toetuseta. Ja võib-olla mainiks ka käimasolevaid Targa linna tippkeskuse projekte, millest nii digiaudit kui Green Twins on mõlemad tugevalt Tallinnasse panustavad ja suure Tallinna linna osalusega. Nendest viimane tegeleb mudelite rohekihi loomisega, mille alla läheb siis kõik linna haljastuse küsimused ja digiauditis 20 koolimaja ja muud hoonet liidestatakse pilvepõhise uue platvormiga, mis siis peaks hoonete haldurite elu tulevikus lihtsamaks tegema, andma pildi sellest, mismoodi hoonete tehnosüsteemid töötavad, kas sisekliimaga on kõik korras, võimaldada lihtsat energiakasutuse jälgimist ja ka hoonete paremat hooldust ja kindlasti sellises linnavaates võimaldada ka seda, et teha näiteks renoveerimise strateegiaid ja valida välja õigeid objekte, mis siis teatud muudatusi kõige kiiremini vajavad ja mis siis kunagi kaugemas tulevikus võiksid tulla. Nii et nende tänaste teemadega seonduvalt ma tahangi soovida kõikidele linna inimestele kõigepealt edu, et me suudaks need käimasolevad projektid edukalt ellu viia ja loomulikult tuleb mõelda uute asjade peale, milleks siis tänane üritus keskendub. Nii et edu ja jõudu nende praeguste ja tulevaste väljakutsete lahendamisel. Aitäh!
Aitäh, Jarek Kurnitski! Järgmisena paluks lavale Tallinna Tehnikaülikooli rektor, professor Tiit Landi.
Lugupeetud Tallinna linnapea, head kolleegid ja sõbrad nii linnast kui ka Tehnikaülikoolist. Ja soovin veel kord eraldi tere tulemast Tallinna linna inimestele, tänastele mõttetalgutele. Kui me korra juba käis läbi ka sõna koostöö ja ma alustangi võib-olla koostööga, et kui me kõigepealt, kui me arutasime, kuidas me seda üritust nimetame ja ütleme otse, et kui me täna peale lõunal oleme välja saatmas pressiteate, mille me teeme koos linnaga, siis me mõtlesime sellele pressiteatele panna sellise pealkirja nagu roheline pealinn ei ole enam heleroheline unistus. Ja ehk siis, kuhu ma praegu viitan või kuhu ma lähen kohe otse rohepöördesse ja rohe- ja digipöördesse. Ja ma arvan, et ka üks selline kandev tänane mõttetalgute osa on just nimelt ka mõelda läbi see osa, kuidas see rohepööre ja digipööre meie jaoks üldse tähendab. Sest rohepööret võib võtta väga erinevalt, võib võtta lihtsalt prügi sorteerimist, võib võtta tulede või lampide kustutamist, võib võtta midagi veel, aga kuidas me selle tegelikult kokku paneme, on palju keerulisem. Ja kui ma mainisin ka algussõna koostöö, midagi enne mainiti, siis loomulikult ka selleks me oleme koos, et ülikool, Tehnikaülikool ja ka Tallinna linn koos arutaksid ja mõtleksid välja, pakuksid välja ideid, kuidas koos edasi minna. Loomulikult ülikooli roll on siin võib-olla ennekõike teadus, et ma praegu ka just tulin otse Pärnust. Pärnus algas hommikul kell 10 iga-aastane juhtimiskonverents, mille selle aasta konverentsi teema on Tule teadus appi. See kõlab ju lausa nagu appi karjana, aga tõsi on siis loos, et me kõik, nii Tallinna linn, Eesti kui kogu maailm vajab tänasel päeval rohkem ja rohkem teadust ja ka rohkem ja rohkem teaduspõhiseid otsuseid ja ettepanekuid ja teid, kuidas edasi minna. Näiteks me oleme viimase aasta elanud kõik COVID-19, kuidas öelda, võib öelda mullis, et meie elu on olnud väga palju muutunud, kui läbi COVID-19, kui me mõtleme tagasi nüüd aasta tagusesse aega või tegelikult ütleme 1,5 aastat tagasi, novembris 2019, kui tulid esimesed teated või pigem signaalid, et üks uus viirus on plehku pannud ja on hüpanud üle loomalt inimesele, siis see oli 2019. aasta lõpus või novembris-detsembris, siis juba 12. jaanuaril 2020 oli see uus viirus, viiruse genoom oli ära järjestatud või sekveneeritud, nagu ka eesti keeles täna öeldakse, ja vähem kui aasta pärast seda olid esimesed inimesed ka saanud esimese vaktsiini selle just COVID-19 vastu, mis näitab, et teadus tuli appi, aga kas sellest praegu appi tulemusest on piisav? Et tegelikult me teame täna, et me oleme võib-olla heal juhul poolel teel või võib-olla isegi mitte poolel teel. Ja seda abi on vaja palju rohkem ja kui näiteks Jarek siin just enne mind rääkis sellest hoonest, siis kindlasti see hoone on, ma usun öelda, võib-olla üks paremini ventileeritud näiteks Tallinna linnas, Eesti Vabariigis, Põhjamaades, aga just ka teadus on näidanud seda, et mitte ainult lisaks vaktsineerimisele, vaktsineerimine on ka täna ainus teaduslikult tõendatud viis, kuidas viirust COVID-19 levikut ja kulgu minimeerida, aga on ka palju muud, et kas me peaksime kandma maske ja võib-olla hoopis rohkem on hoonete ventilatsioon suurema tähtsusega, et ehk siis teadus saab tulla appi võib-olla poolele teele või 3/4 teele, aga väga palju edasi on ka kinni inimeste enda mõtlemises, väärtushinnangutes, mis peavad muutuma. Ja kui ma nüüd tulen tagasi rohepöörde juurde, millest ma alustasin, et kas Tallinn kui rohepealinn võiks olla tulevikus reaalsus, mina olen täiesti veendunud, et on reaalsus, siis rohepööre ja digipööre tähendab ju ka väga paljuski just nimelt inimeste mõtteviisi ja väärtushinnangute muutmist ja kui me näiteks liigume rohepöördega Ida-Virumaale, mida ma tihti kasutan seda just Ida-Virumaad, mitte ainult ka sellepärast, et Ida-Virumaal asub Tehnikaülikoolile Virumaa kolledž Kohtla-Järvel, mis on siiamaani võib öelda aastakümneid ja kümneid tegelenud väga intensiivselt põlevkiviga ja põlevkivi kasutamisega, siis nüüd rohepöörde valguses peab ühest küljest tehnoloogia väga palju muutuma, et me teame, et põlevkivi põletada või oksideerida läbi põletamise ei ole enam jätkusuutlik juba kas või selles mõttes, et ta on liiga kallis, aga teisest küljest on võib-olla põlevkivi võimalik teistmoodi oksideerida, mitte läbi põletamise, vaid läbi keemilise oksideerimise, mida ka Tehnikaülikooli teadlased teevad, on välja pakkunud või nad on välja töötanud tehnoloogia, kuidas põlevkivist toota ütleme kemikaale läbi keemilise oksideerimise, see süsihappegaas, mis seal tuleb, seda on võimalik palju lihtsamini kinni püüda. Aga Ida-Virumaa jaoks tähendab see palju rohkemgi ennekõike just ka inimeste mõttemaailmas muutusi ja ka sotsiaalseid probleeme, sest kui 5000 inimest otse töötab põlevkivisektoris, siis lihtsalt selle ära lõpetamine tekitab väga suuri probleeme, et ka siin on meil teadlaste abi vaja. Ja selleks me ka siin täna koos oleme, et arutada erinevate partneritega, ülikoolil on väga palju erinevad partnerid, samamoodi ka linnal on erinevad partnerid ja arutada nende tuleviku siis võimaluste üle, mis meil on ja mida meile ka rohepööre ja digipööre pakuvad, me peame olema targad, et neid ära kasutada. Ja loomulikult soovin ka siinkohal tänada senise koostöö eest Tallinna linnaga. Meil on väga palju erinevates valdkondades, nimetasin energiatõhusust, siis näiteks keskkonnahoidu, liikuvust, ringmajandust, et meil on koostöökohti palju, kus me oleme koostööd alustanud, aga meil on kindlasti väga palju veel ees ja kindlasti ka, kui Jarek nimetas Tuleviku linna professuuri, mis on meie jaoks väga oluline ja veel kord ka omalt poolt tänan Tallinna linna selle eest, et meil on selline professuur olemas, siis see näitabki seda, ütleb seda, et me peame mõtlema tulevikku väga pikalt ette, sest ka Tehnikaülikool olles teinud äsja oma uue arengukava ja seadnud endale siis sigid 5 aastaks, me näeme, et 5 aastat on nii lühike aeg, et kui me seame endale mingi võtmenäitaja, arengukavaga seotud võtmenäitaja, mida me jälgime, et 5 aasta pärast oleme jõudnud sinna, siis 5 aasta pärast võime näha, et me oleme tegelikult ajast hoopis maha jäänud, et me peame vaatama palju kaugemale. Ja sellest tulenevalt näiteks me oleme seadnud endale arengukava ühe võtmenäitajana eesmärgiks mitte nüüd 5-aastase perioodi, vaid 15-aastase või siis 14-aastase perioodi. Aastast 2035 me soovime, et meie Mustamäe kampus ülikooli linnak oleks kliimaneutraalne. Kuidas me seda saavutame, seda me saame koos arutada ja aidata kaasa sellele, et ka Tallinna linn oleks oma sisult rohepealinn. Et veel kord, mul on väga-väga hea meel, et tänane üritus mõttetalgud aset leiavad, soovin tänada eraldi Kaja Kuivjaga, kes puhkas sel suvel terve nädala lausa, aga tegeles ka samal ajal ehk siis ka muu hulgas selle mõttetalgute programmi kokkupanemisega ja ma olen väga optimistlik, et meil tuleb täna siit väga palju häid mõtteid. Veel kord tere tulemast Tehnikaülikooli ja palju häid mõtteid mõttetalgutel. Aitäh!
Aitäh, Rektor Tiit Land. Järgmisena paluksin lavale Tallinna linnapea Mihhail Kõlvarti.
Austatud Akadeemik Kurnitski, austatud Rektor. Jah, ma arvan, et täna me võiksime rääkida koostööst, rääkida laiemast ja pikemast perspektiivist, aga võib-olla ka sellest, kuidas me suudame saavutada neid suuremaid eesmärke. Ja põhilisi teemasi austatud Rektor on juba välja toonud, mina võib-olla püüaks veel pakkuda mõned rõhuasetused. Esiteks pikaajaline strateegia. Jah, ma arvan, et me peame tunnistama, et on päris palju valdkondi, sealhulgas ka linna strateegiline areng, kus selliseid pikaajalisi plaane tegelikult ei olnud ja kui nad olid, siis pigem paberi peal. Vähemalt mina küll näen, et Tallinna linn viimased mõnikümmend aastat, mis puudutab linnaruumi, kasvas kaootiliselt detailplaneeringute alusel, mitte laiema kontseptsiooni alusel. Ja ma kardan, et selliseid näideid võib välja tuua väga erinevates valdkonnades. Ja kui me räägime nüüd rohepöörest, siis peab olema muidugi pikaajaline strateegia, mitte ainult üksikud projektid, mida me tihti näeme. Mida see pikaajaline strateegia tähendab ja siin ma arvan just teaduspõhine lähenemine on eelkõige vajalik, mitte sellepärast, et teadus tähendab teadmisi, vaid eelkõige sellepärast, et teadus näeb süsteemi, näeb seoseid ja seaduspärasusi ja oskab teha prognoose ja järeldusi. See minu arvates eelkõige tähendab sellist teaduspõhilist juhtimist ja lähenemist. Aga kui me räägime sellest kontseptsioonist, siis on nii lõplik eesmärk kui ka sammud, mis me peaksime olema võimelised lahti kirjutama. Ja peame arvestama ka sellega, et suuremad tulemused lähiaastatel ei tule, aga neid tulemusi sisse kodeerida tuleb juba praegu. Ja see võib-olla on tihti kõige keerulisem töö, eriti poliitikute puhul, et teha ja otsustada midagi sellist, mille vilju saab maista ainult mõnikümne aasta pärast, ehk siis valimistsükliga see ei ole otse seotud. Aga ka selliseid otsuseid tuleb teha. Ja tuleb arvestada muidugi ka sellega, et väga tihti mõtteviis ei jõua teaduse järgi. Ja mõnikord liigne pealesurumine pigem protsessi pidurdab, kui motiveerib. Ja seega minu arvates rohepööre ei tohi olla ideoloogiline kontseptsioon. Tuleb rääkida eelkõige elukvaliteedist, tuleb rääkida tehnoloogiatest, aga see ei saa olla nagu selline dogma. Ja ka sellepärast, et tegelikult on, mida välja tuua ja kuidas inimestele seletada. Ja on tõepoolest ka sellised valdkonnad, kus minu arvates just sellepärast ei tohi kirustada. Selleks, et see ei muutuks ideoloogiliseks ja mitte neid protsesse pidurdada, kuna inimeste mõtteviis ei ole selleks valmis. Ja veel üks mõte, mis kindlasti ei ole uus, me kindlasti siin saalis praegu räägime erinevatest suunatest, valdkonnadest, on see liikumine, energia, bioloogiline mitmekesisus, aga kus peab lõppkokkuvõttes kontseptsioon tekkima, on eelkõige arusaam, kuidas tekivad seosed ja seaduspärasused, ehk ühesõnaga, kuidas tekib sünergia. Ja ideaalis tahaks näha ka tervikmudeleid. Mida ma püüan praegu rääkida, et siin viimasel ajal mul tekkis võimalus mitu korda osaleda seminaridel, kus osalesid ka Euroopa Komisjoni esindajad, kus oli juttu ka rahastamise printsiibides ja minu üheks küsimuseks või isegi palveks oli rohepööre rahastamine mudelite alusel. Et ei oleks eraldi programmid, mida tuleb puuslina pärast kokku panna, vaid oleks ka terviknägemus ja sellest lähtuvalt ka tervikfinantseerimine. Aga selleks peab olema ka kontseptuaalne arusaam, mida see mudel tähendab. Tõenäoliselt kellelgi see on olemas, mina pean tunnistama, et mul seda ei ole ja ma ei ole päris kindel, et minu kolleegidel see mudel on olemas. Aga kui oleks see mudel ja oleks ka mudeli alusel finantseerimine, siis see kindlasti oleks abiks mitte ainult Tallinna linnale, vaid üldse Euroopas see lähenemine võiks olla rakendatud. Ja see võiks olla ka üks meie ettepanek Tallinna linna poolt teadaolevalt. Me järjekordselt kandideerime Euroopa rohelise pealinna tiitlile ja loomulikult me näitame seda, mida me oleme saavutanud. See, mis ei ole tehtud, seda žürii liikmed ka ise näevad, aga üheks selliseks võib-olla kontseptuaalseks ettepanekuks olekski see, et Tallinnas võikski tekkida see kompetentsikeskus, kus me suudame luua mudeleid. Ja seda on võimalik teha ainult koostöös ülikooliga, loomulikult. Ja võib-olla seda kompetentsust oleks vaja tuua ka väljaspoolt. Ja ma arvan, et me oleksime suutelised sellised mudeleid pakkuda ka väljaspoole. ja ma arvan, see ootus on olemas. Et oskus näha erinevate valdkonnade vahel mitte ainult koos eksisteerimist, vaid just sünergia loomist, seoseid ja seaduspärasuse. Ja jällegi ainult teadus suudab seda süsteemi luua just mõtteviisi pärast. No ja viimane mõte, et ma ei tea, kuidas meil õnnestub seekord, me oleme 2-3 korda finaalis, aga lõppkokkuvõttes ei ole nii tähtis. Minu arvates, et see tee, mida me iga kord läbime, on juba suur eesmärk ja saavutus, et iga selle osalemisega meil ikkagi nii arusaam laieneb, kui ka konkreetseid tegevusi me suudame ellu viia. Ja samamoodi siin saalis ma arvan, et loomulikult oleks tore, et meil oleksid valmis kontseptsioonid laua peal, aga juba see arutelu, see koostöö viib edasi ja juba praegu me saame tunnistada, et on juba ka tulemusi. Ja juba täna on mille eest kolleegi tänada. Ja seda ma tahangi teha. Et ma tänan teid koostöö eest ja ma olen kindel, et me oleme suutelised ka selliseid suuremaid eesmärki, suuremaid kontseptsioone rakendada ja ellu viia. Aitäh!
Aitäh Tallinna linnapeale. Tegelikult, nagu siin ka on juba kõlanud, siis need ei ole sugugi meil esimesed mõttetalgud, mis meil siin vahepeal on toimunud. Eelmised toimusid 2019. aastal ja vahepeal on tegelikult ka 11 korda saadetud. Ja ma paluksin ka lühidalt Kaja Kuivjõel, kes on täna meil selle ürituse eestvedaja, natuke kommenteerida, mis siis vahepeal on toimunud ja millised ambitsioonid edasi seame.
Aitäh! Ja 2 aastat tagasi, märts 2019, siis olid esimesed sellised mõttetalgud, me olime siis tookord olime Rektori majas ja tookord oli siis mõtteks see, et me vaatasime probleeme ja otsisime koostöökohti. Tegelikult kontekstina tuleb kindlasti öelda, et ülikoolil ja Tallinna linnal erinevatel instituutidel on mitukümmend erinevat lepingut erinevates valdkondades, teede ehitus, erinevad ekspertiisid, riigihangetes osalemine, ehk et projektid, mida näiteks siin tahvli peal on Finest Winsi või Tuleviku linna professuuri kontekstis käivitatud, see on pisikene osa kogu sellest koostööst, mis ülikoolil ja Tallinna linna vahel toimub. Ja kuna need tänased on nüüd nagu jätkuüritus sellele 2 aastat tagasi olnud, siis kindlasti see kontaktide loomine, koos mõtlemine on üks osa sellest, mis on oluline, et kui me siit ära läheme, et igapäevases koostöös tuleb meelde. Ja nii nagu härra linnapea ja rektor akadeemik juba mainisid, et see koostöö ja erinevad projektid on tegelikult igapäevane mõtteviis ja et neid on väga palju. Strateegiline pikaajaline mõtlemine võiks olla täna nagu üks kandev joon. Et kui me täna need teemad, mis me oleme koos linnaga välja valinud kõikidesse laudadesse, et seal vaadata juba lahendustesse, pikaajalisemate ja suuremahulisemate tegevuste, et seda sünergiat ja tervikut näha, nagu linnapea ka välja tõi. Et võib-olla see on see, kus me oleme nagu selles arengus olnud. Ja minu poolt ka suur aitäh, et te kõik olete siia tulnud, et suve ajal olete leidnud selle nagu aja. Aitäh!
Aitäh, Kaja! No nii, aga nüüd hakkame valmistuma ka meie järgmiseks kõnelejaks, kes ühineb meiega Soomest. Ma palun slaididele ka tema tutvustuse. Milla Burno on Soome lahti European Green Capital 2021 projektijuht. ja ma loen edasi ka inglise keeles. Her experience for the Green Capital Initiative evolved from her political career as a decision maker in the Lahti City Council since 2013. Her interest in city politics rose from following the determination Lahti had in its urban and environmental policy solutions. During her first term, Bruno acted as the chairman of her own political group and as a member of the Lahti City Board. During her second term in office, she already became the chairman of the Lahti City Council and was the first woman in the city's history to do so. No nii, paistab, et me oleme internetiühenduse Soomega taastanud. Kohe saame võtta meie külalise. Saan ka öelda seda, et peale tema ettekannet saab kindlasti ka küsimusi küsida ja inimesed, kes jälgivad meid veebi vahendusel, võivad oma küsimusi küsida kommenteerides YouTube'i lingi all ning pärast ettekannet kindlasti me ka küsimusi võtame. Minu poolt võime panna esineja lavale. Hello, Milla.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, very nicely. Welcome.
Thank you. Are you guys ready? Should I start?
Could you hold 1 second? You're freezed at the moment, but... Okay, now we are ready to hear you. You can start.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody in Estonia and Tallinn. It's very nice to be involved in your day. What an inspirational day you have ahead of you. My name is Milla Bruno. I am from the city of Lahti here in Finland. I work as the executive director for the Lahti European Green Capital year 2021. My background is not from environmental work or city planning for that matter either. I am actually a businesswoman by profession. I've been working with different kinds of media companies in Helsinki all my life, even though I'm from Lahti. But this is my first actual job in Lahti, and the way I'm got involved in the European Green Capital Initiative is that I'm a decision maker also in Lahti, so a local politician. Especially in my second term as the city council chair, I was the chairwoman of the city council. I was involved in the last 2 rounds when we were applying for the European Green Capital title. I was very involved in the final pitching session of it, and also as a decision maker, of course, have been making political decisions for Lahti to be a forerunner in a lot of things. I will tell you today about what actually it means that Lahti is the European Green Capital. How did we get here? So basically, first of all, Lahti is a smaller size city, middle-sized city. We have 120,000 inhabitants. In the regional area of Päijät-Häme, there's 200,000 population, but we have a very central logistic situation. We're only an hour drive from Helsinki. Actually, by train, it's only 15 minutes to go to Helsinki. We're a very modern industrial city. Lahti became industrializing already like many cities in Europe after the war, and which also meant that the city grew rapidly. We tripled the inhabitants of the city, and also it meant that industries were taking a lot of steps forward. But that also meant that a lot of things also happened on nature's expense. But now we're a modern industrial city. We're sort of redefining the city again with the new opportunities that we have in this sustainable sort of world we're living in. We're also a new home for the Lappeenranta-Lahti University for Technology. So unlike many other cities and unlike like yourself, we're a very new university city. We started to be a university city in 2019, and we're specializing especially in environmental and city planning research here at the area, together with the companies that are in the area. So we are a typical European mid-sized city. So we, as the European Green Capital, actually represent a majority of Europeans, because majority of Europeans live in cities exactly like Lahti. So far we are the smallest and also the most northern and also geographically the most eastern European Green Capital so far. I have a short video that I will show you for an inspiration. This is a video that we shot in the middle of dead of winter when we were starting to get ready for our year. So if the technical crew could play the first video, I would be very happy. So what does it mean to be a green capital? What is this initiative all about? As you may know, Tallinn is in the final again to be the European Green Capital for 2023. We're looking forward to having the Tallinn delegation coming to Lahti in 3 weeks. And on 9th of September, we will know who will be the Green Capital next in 2023. Will it be Tallinn? I wish you all the best of luck. But what does this initiative mean? This is an annual competition that is organized by the European Commission. We were assessed by these 12 theme indicators in the process of getting this award. If you are interested in this application that we have done, which is of course in English, you are free to go and see it from our website, which is greenlahti.fi and facts. And we're very happy to see that a lot of people actually go and look at our application. We had to report to the Commission all of our environmental work and city planning work in these 12 indicators to access the actual competition. Lahti applied 3 times to get this award. It took us 3 times to get there, but now we're acting as the Green Capital for 2021. Of course, while doing this process, we were also sort of assessing what are the benefits of this for a city like Lahti. Why would you go through this competition? What would be the benefits for our city, for our citizens, for the industries in this area? What about the universities in the area? So of course, we did a lot of research, what the other cities that were green capitals before us had thought as was beneficial for them. For me, I take a lot of pride in the fact that we are amongst these cities. To be the 12th European capital after many nations' capitals before us, many cities that have millions of people in them, I think great pride in the fact that Lahti is the European Green Capital this year. Next year it's Grenoble, so it's going to fairly similar city after Lahti, because Grenoble, as you know, is also known for its winter sports, just like Lahti is. It's fairly the same size. There are other cities that were about the same size, which is Nijmegen, for instance, from Holland. I had a pleasure of being there in 2018, when it was the second time we applied. And Oslo was 2019 when we won. So we were in Oslo in June, and that's when we got our award. Of course, Lisbon was the 2020 Green Capital. They had a very hard situation with COVID that hit them very rapidly. We, on the other hand, have been, of course, lucky enough to be able to plan our year and the execution of our year, knowing that we have a pandemic that we need to deal with. Of course, it has made our life a little bit harder than I thought or I wished for our team, but we have been able to manage it. How did we do in the comparison when we look at the cities that were in the final with us in 2019? We were in the final with two French cities, which were Strasbourg and Lille, very different cities from Lahti. And from this spider web, you can see Lahti's sort of high points and low points. There are many things that we were the best ones in scoring, but there are also things where we were not really good. And there are things that we still need to do a lot work with to be able to get to the goals that we have set for our cities. At this point, I want to tell you, everybody, that of course this material is going to be sent to you. So I'm not going to go into every detail of my presentation. So you will get all of this information sent to you beforehand. And of course, if you have any more questions, you are free to contact me afterwards, and I will address you to the right person in case I can't answer your questions. But it took us 40 years of very hard work, very determined work to do this. And to get to be a European Green Capital, it's not an easy job. I could tell you all of these things with numerous slides, but I chose to show you another video at this point, which also there's a link in this presentation that you will get, so you can also access these videos that I'm showing you today afterwards. But with the next video that is about 4 minutes, we tell the whole story how we became the European Green Capital. The host of this video is a well-known TV presenter who is well known for his TV shows about nature, about fishing, about sports, a very outgoing person. It is very important to have different voices telling our story. We need to understand that in order to connect with different audiences, you need to find the right person to talk, the right story to tell to the right audience. You have to be very clear with your communications and understand that you have to have several communications plans when you want to talk to different kinds of audiences. These issues are not easy to communicate. There are a lot of people who are scared. There are a lot of people who deny that this is not even important work, what we're doing. So you need to find ways to communicate. So we chose to do this video with a well-known presenter from Helsinki, who is sort of telling from outside how he sees Lahti. So if the technical crew would be so nice and show the second video, and then I will continue with my presentation.
Euroopan ympäristöpääkaupungin kunnian saa vuosittain yksi eurooppalainen kaupunki, joka toimii inspiraationa ympäristöasioissa muille kaupungeille. Olen tullut Lahteen tutkimaan, miksi valinta osui juuri tänne. Kaikki alkoi oikeastaan 45 vuotta sitten. Ennen vanhaan Lahden rannoilla liplattavaan Vesijärveen laskettiin kaikkea. Ja siis todella ihan kaikkea. Yhdyskuntajätteestä teollisuuden liemiin. Järven tila oli kamala. Mutta 70-luvulla alkaneella kovalla työllä lahtelaiset ovat pelastaneet järvensä. Järven puhdistus oli alkusysäys lahtelaiselle ympäristöosaamiselle. Vesijärven mallia on hyödynnetty jo yli 1000 suomalaisen vesistön kunnostuksessa. Lahti on kiertotalouden edelläkävijä. Täällä ymmärretään, että jäte on raaka-aine ja kaupungissa kierrätettiinkin jo silloin, kun muualla oli vielä käytössä yhden roskapussin taktiikka. Tarviiko muuten apua? Lahtelaiset eivät ainoastaan vähennä jätteiden määrää, vaan myös hyödyntävät syntyvän jätteen tehokkaasti. Muutos ei ole vain sanoja, vaan Lahdessa tehdään joka päivä käytännön ympäristötekoja yhdessä korkeakoulujen, yritysten ja asukkaiden kanssa. Pienetkin teot merkitsevät ja jokainen lahtelainen osallistuu talkoisiin osaltaan. Lahtelaiskotien jätteestä hyödynnetään jo nyt hurjat 99% ja tavoitteena on olla täysin jätteetön kaupunki vuonna 2050. Suomi haluaa olla hiilineutraali vuonna 2035, mutta Lahti haluaa olla 10 vuotta nopeampi, joten tähtäin on vuodessa 2025. Täällä Kymijärvellä luovuttiin kivihiilen poltosta ja nykyään energiaa tuotetaan bio- ja kierrätyspolttoaineista. Lahti on leikannut kasvihuonepäästöjään vuoden 1990 tasossa jo 70%. Lahdessa monet muutkin tahot pyrkivät hiilineutraaliuteen vähentämällä toiminnastaan syntyviä hiilidioksidipäästöjä. Siksi täällä on muun muassa hiilineutraali sinfoniaorkesteri sekä maailman ensimmäinen hiilineutraali jääkiekkojengi. Käydään kysymässä vähän lahtelaisilta, mitä mieltä ne itse on tästä ympäristöpääkaupunkiasiasta. Hei, anteeksi.
No kyllä se herättää tietynlaista ylpeyttä.
Tämä on aivan loistava juttu.
Ihan kiva.
Lahden mainen kannalta on se kyllä kova juttu.
Tosi iso asia Lahdelle.
Lahti kannustaa asukkaitaan kestäviin liikkumismuotoihin. Kävelyyn, joukkoliikenteeseen, hiihtoon ja erityisesti pyöräilyyn. Ja täällä pyöräilevätkin ihan kaikki. Lahdessa on ensimmäisenä kaupunkina maailmassa käytössä kaupunkilaisten henkilökohtainen päästökauppa. Päästöjään voi seurata kansainvälistäkin huomiota saaneella CityCap-sovelluksella. Jos tavoitteet alittuvat, voi reilussa Lahdessa saada palkkioksi uimalippuja tai vaikkapa palan kakkua. – 120 000 asukkaan Lahti on kokoistaan suurempi paikka. Se on ensimmäinen suomalaiskaupunki, jonka Euroopan komissio on nimennyt ympäristöpääkaupungiksi. Aiemmat ovat olleetkin vähän suurempia taajamia, kuten Tukholma, Hampuri ja Lissabon. Samaistuttavan tarinan lisäksi Lahti tarjoaa käytännönläheisiä lahtelaisia ympäristöratkaisuja Euroopalle ja koko maailmalle. Se on juttu, mistä Suomen kannattaa olla ylpeä ja erityisesti lahtelaisten. Lahti tehty kestäväksi.
So, thank you. So that's the story. As you can see from this timeline, that is very hard for you to read, but it started with the restoration of our lake. I was born in 1972 and I was living right by the lake. As a child, I was told all through 70s and also 80s that we weren't allowed to go to the lake. We couldn't go swimming. I couldn't go fishing with my dad, which is of course a shame. Of course, we were doing it behind their backs, but still, I remember that. I remember how the lake was totally unusable. It smelled bad, it looked bad, and it was the most polluted lake in Finland. Today, I am sitting by the lake right now. I go swimming there every morning. My dad goes fishing. I can get Xander on my table every day if I want to. So that is the sort of the work that we started already at the end of the 80s and beginning of 90s. Also in the 90s, we were the first city that already started to think how we're going to separate our waste. How are citizens going to start separating their waste where it actually happens? Back then, all other cities were saying that it will never happen that people actually will separate their own waste. So very forward thinking. A political decision was made in 2009 already, when in our city strategy, we decided that we will cut our CO2 emissions by 50% going towards 2025. Remember, in 2009, we already set these goals. Today, in 2021, we are the European Green Capital, and we have now cut our CO2 emissions on already 70%. And of course, this is all due to the fact that we have stopped using coal in 2019, which means that last year was actually the first year that Lahti and all its citizens got its district heating emission-free. So these are a few of the facts of the accomplishments that we have done in the Lahti region to be able to become the European Green Capital. In short, this is the numbers you can see of our CO2 emissions cut by 70%. District heating production emission-free. Only 1% of our waste go to landfill. 99% of our waste is utilized, whether it's energy or it is as materials. Of course, we're not ready. Not any city is ready. The next things that we need to accomplish to become carbon neutral in 2025, for instance, is our sustainability in our mobility. Our plan is by 2030 to be so that the city's mobility is done, more than half of the city's mobility is done sustainably. We still have a lot of work to do in this area. The another area that we need to really concentrate is construction, how we build buildings in the future. When we're taking buildings down, how are we making sure that we utilize the sort of the material that comes from tearing buildings down? How are we using the buildings in the beginning? Also, how are buildings used as carbon sinks in the future by using wood as the material? We have set Green Capital Year objectives and also a goal to be carbon neutral in 2025. Everything that we're doing this year in cooperation with different stakeholders and our citizens and the city will follow sort of either one of these four themes, whether it's carbon neutral life, whether it's citizen participation, circular economy, and nature and water. This was something that we presented already at the stage when we're applying to be the Green Capital, and I'm very happy to see that we have actually stuck to this plan and now have planned everything sort of that it follows these themes that we set for ourselves already 2 years ago. We also have made objectives for the Green Capital Year, which from the left are sort of the citizen level, in the middle it's the national level, and on the right side it's the sort of the global reach. European Commission is also sort of giving us a task to also sort of make this whole Green Capital initiative more known globally. And I have to say that globally, the reach what we have had during this year has been exceptionally good. We have been reaching every continent in the world. I have been talking in, I don't even know how many same situations right now all over the world. So this is something that is very important for us. And also I would say that it's a little bit tricky that because globally, nobody is sort of questioning the forerunning, sort of the trailblazing work that we're doing here. But when you go to the national level in the middle, it is starting to now sort of be known to the other sort of cities in Finland, but also the Finnish national media is recognizing us at this point very much. Just 10 minutes before I started to get online here, I was talking to 20 different environmental journalists from Finland for the first time here in Lahti. Of course, the pandemic has also caused the fact that we haven't been able to host that many people lately, but now that the restrictions are sort of getting a little bit easier, plus everybody is having their vaccinations already, we are getting a lot more delegations visiting our city. So today I'm talking to you via this. I just had the journalists and just yesterday I was talking to a group of people from different universities. So this is something that is getting a recognition also in national level very much at the moment. Of course, I feel it's very important to do this as a national event, national in this initiative as well, because the government is also funding our theme year significantly. I would have to say that the left side of these objectives that we've set for each other, which is the sort of the local citizen side, that is the most hard one. You can also understand that this is a political issue as well. There's a lot of people who think that wasting money, taxpayer money on initiatives like this is not important. It's not important what Lahti as a city does. It is not important what Finland as a country does when somebody else is doing something else. But it is very important to find ways how the citizens can participate. And that is one of, as you saw in my previous slide, that is one of the most important things that I think is that how you involve the citizens, how you give them the recognition for the work that they have done in order for us to even achieve this title, and how you participate then also in the future to be involved in this work together with us as well. So to be carbon neutral in 2025 will take a lot of work from us, and we only have 4 years to go. With the accomplishments that I showed you before, we have already cut our emissions by 70%. But as I said, mobility and construction are the next big things that we need to solve when we only have 4 years to go. I looked at a little bit of your sort of agenda for the day. So I picked one particular thing as an example of things that we still need to achieve to become carbon neutral in 2025. And that is the urban mobility solutions that we are planning for the city. We have made a Lahti Sustainable Urban Mobility Plan, SUMP in short, which means that there's 4 different themes that are involved in this mobility plan, which is sustainably growing Lahti, Lahti city center, what happens in the city center, how do we make the city center still accessible for everybody, whether they're using a bike, whether they're using public transportation, whether they're using a bike, their own private cars. Also, we need to make sure that Lahti of services is sustainable. And also then making sure that everything is also in our mobility plan done safely. Sustainably growing Lahti means that we need to make sure that we still stay as a growing city. Lahti is sort of in the right at the point of being still a growing city. As you probably know, a lot of cities are losing their inhabitants, not because of any particular reason other than the fact that people are, the growing number of older people is still going up for the next couple of decades, and which means that we don't have enough also people, sort of new people being born in the city. So we're totally reliant on people moving to Lahti, whether it's within Finland, from especially the municipalities around us, but also from international movement to Lahti. So we need to still make sure that we grow, but we need to make sure that we grow sustainably. And that means that it also, we need to make a sustainable urban mobility plan. Another thing that is involved in this urban mobility plan is Lahti of services. How we make sure that in a city where we still have winters, and hopefully we'll have proper winters forever, we, for instance, need to make sure that biking is possible for everybody also in the winter time. How do we make sure that the bike paths work also in snow conditions? Also, we need to make sure, like I said before, that all mobility in the city, whether you are walking or biking or using public transportation, it is very safe. One of the things that we have developed in Lahti with a very close operation with the university here, Lappeenranta-Lahti Technical University, LUT, and also local companies, is the CityCap project. We were playing with a personal carbon trading scheme, which is the first one in the world. This was funded by the EU Commission The project included also a construction, a new smart cycling path that I just mentioned earlier. And this initiative has the tryout period, the pilot period ended last year, and all the information and also the findings of this scheme is available also. And I'm happy to send you all this information for you as a link as well. And we have a great expert who works for the city organization, Miss Anna Huttunen, who will be an expert to share sort of all the experiences from this personal carbon trading scheme that we piloted within the last 2-3 years. And we also now have the findings of this pilot. But one of the most important initiatives that we also are starting this year and hope to have a long legacy is the green electrification of mobility ecosystem, which is GEM. So which means that we have a very strong tradition in our area for vehicle production industry. And now with the Finnish government funding as well, we have agreed to develop a cluster for e-mobility technologies and productions in the area. We have about 30 companies that are involving already. We have the fastest growing company in Lahti, which is Kempower, which is doing, manufacturing charging infrastructure for e-vehicles, whether it's logistics or public transportation or private cars. They are growing very rapidly at the moment. And this is one of the key initiatives that we are also starting, making sure that we have infrastructure to provide different kinds of mobility in the city. We have started with 17 e-buses this July, which makes us the biggest e-bus fleet when you compare to the citizens number. And next year we're doubling it. So in a year we will have more. We will double the amount of e-buses, for instance, in Lahti. We're also starting our city bike system next week. We've never had city bikes in Lahti before, and these are also going to be e-bikes because Lahti is a very hilly. Because of the riches that we have in the city, which means that the city bike system is going to be also e-bikes that will be launched next week. I think one of the biggest sort of findings I want to share with you today is that nothing can be done alone. When you want to achieve something important, it has to be done together. In this pie chart, you can see just a few different stakeholders and partners that are involved in our year. If you want to make something very important happen, you need to have everybody involved. You need to have local companies, you need to have citizens, you need to have research institutions, need to have the academia, you need to have the government, and so forth. You have to have the municipalities around you. So it is very important to understand that nothing can happen alone. And this also means that you need to know how to lead. You need to have good governance, you need to have good leadership in order to get everybody working together for the same goals that you have set. In Lahti, the European Green Capital project is implemented through Sustainable Lahti Foundation, where I act as the managing director. So we felt that it was important to have a very sort of nimble and very fast organization to work this year to be able to also attract different kinds of stakeholders. Here's a few examples of all the different stakeholders that are involved. I'm not going to go into detail, but all this information is also, of course, available for you to look at afterwards. Just to give you an idea, we have 14 different cooperation partners that are basically local companies, also companies who have not worked in Lahti before, but have been wanted to be involved in our year, which means that they're sort of working as sponsors for this year, which means that with their involvement in our year, we have been able to implement different kinds of project funding that I'm going to tell you next about, but also arrange concrete things for the citizens to enjoy. So we've been funding different kinds of projects during this year, and at the moment it is 80 projects that we have funded, and we have used more than €1 million so far for this. If you go to our Green Capital website, you can find all these projects that we have funded and also a short description of all of them. These are very important. There is some projects that are involving little kids that are going with their kindergarten group to the local forest to plant some trees, and we are telling them about carbon sinks. But it can be also a company that is getting funding from us to find filtering systems for microplastics in water. So very different kinds of initiatives. Also cultural, art. So need to make sure that everybody has a different way of being involved in our year. We have also found many ways to be involved in this year. It's very important that you find different kinds of participation ways, whether it's through social media, whether it's through being an ambassador for our city. We have more than 35 city ambassadors who are volunteering to be our voice to their peer groups, to be our voice in their neighborhoods, to be our voice in their different kinds of surroundings that they are involved in, and they're very enthusiastic to help us in every way they can. So it's very important that you find ways for different kinds of sort of stakeholders to be involved. As I said before, we have been dealing with the pandemic, and it has put restrictions on us, of course, as it has in everywhere, but we have found different ways of doing things, which is, of course, preparing us for the future. I have a feeling that we're not going to go back to the old ways of doing things where everything was always happening physically behind closed doors. So basically, the first half of the year, we did virtually. Everything that we had to organize, if we wanted to have a global reach, if we wanted to have a national reach, we had to do it virtually. But that also meant that we have been able to get a wider audience. For instance, when we organize the opening ceremonies in January, usually when the Green Capital opening ceremonies are happening in these cities, it involves in about 200 people and behind closed doors as a very private event. We were able to do it virtually on 15th of January in the middle of a Friday, so that we had a 45-minute virtual event that we had 2,000 people joining in at that moment, and it was open for anybody to watch afterwards for 10 days. And within that 10 days, we reached 6,000 people. So instead of having a closed event for 200 people, we actually reached 6,000 people globally who knew about us being the Green Capital. Also, at that point, we opened a sort of a theme park here in the dead of winter, where the citizens could go and enjoy our opening ceremonies safely with Corona still being involved. We also created a dialogue series for the first half of the year of sustainable cities, where we invited some of the other European green capitals before. We talked about particular issues that they were showing good results in their theme year. All these events were, of course, available for anybody to join. And now you can find all these 7 different episodes that we have done on the Lahti City YouTube channel. Again, a global reach, not something that experts were just talking within closed doors. We are still planning a lot of events for the rest of the year. Of course, the pandemic is still doing some of sort of throwing us curveballs all the time, but especially with the restrictions getting a little bit easier, but also especially people getting vaccinated all over, we can see that there's also a lot of people who want to travel to Lahti. For instance, tomorrow, one of our partners, which is the Energy Industry Associations of Finland, they are organizing a district heating seminar that they do every year here in Lahti, and we are anticipating more than 220 people coming here to the Sibelius Hall for this event for 2 days. So we can already see that there's also a lot of need for people to already see each other and talk about different kinds of issues. There are probably a lot of interesting seminars that would be interesting for you as well. So I urge you to go to our website and see our events for the rest of the year, because there's a lot of things that we're still doing hybrid, and they're very available for anybody to join. And of course, at this moment, we are already thinking about what is going to be the legacy of our year. We need to make sure that this is not the end, this is the beginning. We're using this year to sort of leverage the different kinds of initiatives that we need to make sure that are taking us to the next decade. We have already sort of made a plan that these are the 5 initiatives that we really want to focus on. And this is something that we're now starting in September as in a very participatory way with the local decision makers, city officials, companies that are around us, also our citizens. How do we make sure that the legacy will take us to the next decade? How do we make sure that it gives livelihood our city? How do we make sure that it actually also benefits our citizens, their well-being, their health, their ability to leave a better city for the future generations? So this is, of course, our plan already. How do we make sure that this year also takes us to the next decade? And this is my last slide. I'm not going to go through this, but this is sort of our main idea about our city and also the resilience that we have in this city. We have met many challenges as a city during the past, let's say, 50 years, but we have always overcome them. We have always overcome them and being resilient, involving our citizens, involving different kinds of stakeholders. And of course, it's only proper that we are also the green capital in the middle of a global pandemic. If any city, it's our city that can find enduring changes. We have been enduring change for decades, and we will do that for the future as well, because Lahti is made to endure. Thank you, and that takes me to the last slide of my presentation, which would be my contact details.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for this interesting story. I hope we can take some questions now. Ja kui kellelgi on küsimusi, siis andke käega märku ja palun.
Dear Milla, do you hear me?
Yes.
Kova juttu, Lahti. Ihan kova juttu. Thank you so much for this inspirational talk, and we salute you in Tallinn that you have endured so much and become so green. My question would be, what has been and what is the role of the universities to build up the green strategy for the city? And could you please tell us a little bit, how does the cooperation between the city and the universities work on the daily basis? Thank you.
Thank you. A very good question. And as I said, that this is a huge opportunity for us as a city, since we are a very new university city. Only this fall, we have the first sort of bachelor program starting. We haven't had bachelors in the city at all. I mean, bachelor program students in the city before. We've only had sort of master's degree studies happening, which is, of course, changing the city dynamics. We're going to be having more and more, hundreds of new youth coming in the city in the coming years. Both the University of Helsinki University actually started its presence in Lahti, especially with the Vesijärvi project, when we started making this research, how to clean our lake. And that's how it worked. That's how the Helsinki University actually entered the scene in Lahti in the end of 80s and beginning of 90s. And so ever since that, Helsinki University have had a very distinguished role when it comes to environmental issues and research done with the local companies, for instance, when it comes sort of fighting these issues. But with Lappeenranta-Lahti Technical University, LUT, starting in 2019, they are now very focused also in environmental issues. There's a new professors that we're starting, especially now with this Green Capital Year. This is giving us leverage. There's a lot of interest in our city. So I would say that this initiative that we have in our hands this year, and also the sort of the new university status, is also giving us leverage of starting new research in the area. For instance, we're starting a professor for electrification of mobility very soon. So I would say that it is in a budding stage, and it's a huge opportunity for us in the future to benefit from the new status that we have as a university city, because it also takes us into a whole different level of funding opportunities, both nationally and also globally, to be able to utilize the university status we have as a city. And of course, many opportunities for the local companies, and hopefully also bringing new companies in the area. Because I have to remind you, everybody, that Lahti is still the city that has the highest unemployment rate in Finland. Also, we have the lowest educational level of Finland. Of course, there's a comparison. So once we start getting more and more educated people in Lahti, they will meet also the needs of local industries when it comes to their needs for employees. So I see there are a lot of future opportunities that are actually starting this year. And I can also sort of lead you to the right person. It's Henna Eskonsipo-Bradshaw from the city organization, who is involved in, especially when it comes to the university cooperation in Lahti in the future.
Thank you, Milla, for this answer. Kas meil on meil veel küsimusi? Palun andke käega märku seal.
Hello, thank you very much for a great presentation. My name is Anna Volkova and I'm from Tallinn University of Technology. And you mentioned that you have cooperation with different companies, but how about energy companies, local energy companies? Because as municipality, you cannot influence them very much. So can you tell a little bit more about your experience about mechanisms of this cooperation? Thank you.
Lahti Energy, which is our local energy company, is 100% owned by the city. So we have sort of the governing ownership hand on our energy company, like many cities, of course. Lahti Energy has quit coal. That is the biggest thing, as an also a political decision that we made as a decision makers a few years back. So today, Lahti Energy is producing everything sort of emission free, and we have two plants at the moment work, the other one using SRF and the other one using side produce of our forest industry and wood industry. Of course, that's not a sustainable solution for some cities. For us, it is a total different situation compared to 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we still had our coal plant, which meant that tens and tens of trucks bringing coal from Siberia mainly to be as fuel for our energy plant. Today, all the fuel for the new bio plant comes within 100 kilometers of Lahti from local companies that are working with wood as a side product from forestry. We're not cutting any trees to create energy or heat, district heating in the city, but we're using the side products of the sort of the forest and wood industry in the area. This is a solution that works for us now. Of course, we need to be aware of the fact that we need to make sure that this stays as a sustainable solution for us. But as a city, that was a decision that we made as politicians. we took a 180 million euro loan from the European Central Bank to make this bioplants. So of course we have a lot to say in it, how the energy is done here, because it's a 100% city-owned energy company. In the green capital year, we're also working, as I said, with local private companies, and it's very important to have them involved because they are also creating the solutions that we need to create in climate adaptation and climate mitigation as well. And so it's very important that you involve the local companies. And for instance, let's say one of our companies is a construction company, Peikko Group, that you might think, which is a global company working with steel beams for construction of concrete buildings. Might sound not that sustainable, but in order for Peikko to be also a sustainable company to in the future to attract the professionals to work for them, they also need to think these things. With them, for instance, we're organizing a Construction Goes Circular international seminar about construction. And that is their involvement of this year. They want to make sure that they, as a partner for our city, are known for their sustainable thinking. Unfortunately, we had to move that a little bit. We were supposed to have that seminar in the beginning of October, but we actually just made last week, we made the decision to move it to the beginning of next year. In this, we are also sort of taking into account one of our legacy plans, which is a carbon neutral construction center that we have already funded last year. So we are gathering all the know-how of carbon neutral construction to Lahti now and making sure that we can use that information to everybody's benefit. Also starting pilot initiatives in the city when it comes to construction. And that's one of the ways sort of the private companies are involved. But there's many companies that are working very sustainably in the area already. And we can already see that with this Green Capital year, we're also sort of raising interest of new companies. If you bring your company to operate in Lahti, you are already very sustainable. And remember, companies also need to report their sustainable actions. And if you can sort of already just having your company stationed here in Lahti, you can tell that your energy is emission-free. You can tell that the water management in the area is very well done. So there's many sort of initiatives for companies to also come to Lahti that we can now sort of also communicate. And we already can see that this has raised a lot of interest in other companies, both national and global companies, when they're thinking about relocating. So Lahti is sort of on their map and their radar in a very different level now. And there also universities will play a big role for them as well.
Thank you. Kas meil on veel küsimusi? Hea meelega võtaks mõne küsimuse veel. Okay, thank you, Milla, for this very interesting story, and thank you very much for being us today. We will be continuing with our thinking processes. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Aitäh teile ja enne kui me lähme nüüd mõttetalgutega edasi, tegelikult teeme ühe lõuna. Lõuna jaoks on meil sinna ette toodud erinevad söögid. Söökidega võite vabalt siin maja peal ringi liikuda, oleme paigutanud sinna üles ka selliseid pukke, kus te saate rahulikult süüa. Kindlasti tutvuge selle suurepärase puitmajaga ja kohtume siin juba siis 40 minuti pärast.